Hello, hello! It is time for TBR Takedown episode 2. So if you missed episode 1, I will link it in the card above and in the description box below. So go ahead and give that a watch as well so you know the context of why I'm doing this, what exactly I'm doing, etc. But a brief recap. So I have close to 100 books on my physical TBR, and I really would like to get that down as low as possible. So what I've done is put all of the physical books that I have on slips of paper and into this container, and I will be drawing 3 of these per month to read and hopefully read down my physical TBR in the next year or so. So in episode 1, I finished 3 books, and in this episode, I want to choose another 3 books to read this month. I also have this list, which I am using to keep track of all the books that I have already read, and I am checking them off as I go. I'm also checking off any books that I read that were not part of a TBR Takedown video. A little note on my choices: I am picking 2 books at random, and then I'm picking 1 book that I'm interested in reading. So without further ado, let's choose 2 random books for my TBR Takedown episode 2. Okay, let's mix this around, try to pick completely at random. Okay, this one. The German Room. Okay, so the first pick is The German Room by Carla Maliandi. This is a Charco Press translated book. I've had this for several years and have not picked it up yet, and I really like Charco Press so far. Everything I've read of theirs I have really enjoyed, and yeah, that is the first choice for this TBR Takedown. Okay, let's move on to the second one. Okay, this one. Screaming on the Inside. Okay, it looks like our pick is Screaming on the Inside, The Unsustainability of American Motherhood by Jessica Gross. This is a book that I have been wanting to read for quite some time, and I think I'm actually gonna get this one on audio. It is available on audio. The German Room is not, so it's always nice to have one book that is available on audio, especially if it's nonfiction. I have a much easier time getting through nonfiction on audio, so I think I'm gonna use an audiobook for this, and then for this one, I will obviously read physically. Okay, so those are the 2 random picks for this TBR Takedown, and last I need to pick 1 book that I am particularly excited to read. Okay, I think we're gonna go with The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is a relatively new release. It is a cannibal related book. So I actually want to read this to include it in a future video. No spoilers, but it is upcoming. But yeah, I didn't figure there would be another opportunity for me to read this in a vlog. So I figured it would be fun since it is kind of a popular book / people are really talking about it right now, and I want to be part of the hype and know what it's all about. So I want to give The Lamb a read as the 3rd book in this TBR Takedown. Okay, these are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading for TBR Takedown episode 2. So very exciting. And with that, let's get into the vlog portion of the video. Good morning, friends. I have just started reading The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This was the book that I picked out to read. Of course, I'm starting there because, you know, I want to read what I want to read. Still a mood reader at heart. But yeah, I am on page 44, so chapter 13. These chapters are incredibly short. They're more like vignettes than chapters. They're super short and easy to get through, and so far I'm really liking the writing and the main character. If I haven't told you what it's about a young girl named Margot and her mother, who's just called Mama, who live in this cabin in the woods, and they're really secluded and isolated, and they lure strays to their house and they butcher them and they eat them. And by strays, they mean any human person who has lost their way in the woods. So they're cannibals. And the first couple of lines of this book are like absolutely insane. Line 1 says, "On my first birthday, I plucked 6 severed fingers from the shower drain." So just to give you an idea of the brutality of this book, it is wild. Also, please ignore any shakiness from the camera because my cat is rubbing the tripod repeatedly and moving everything, but if I don't let her in, she will scream at the door. So had to weigh my options there. So far, we are focusing a little bit more on the relationship between Margot and Mama, and where I'm at, there's just now this visitor coming who is not a stray, and they're keeping her, question mark. I don't know if they're gonna keep her permanently or what's gonna happen there, but this stray comes to their house and they take her in and they don't poison her the way that they have been with other strays. I'm feeling a lot of really toxic undercurrents in this relationship between Margot and her mother. Obviously, her childhood, Margot's childhood, is incredibly traumatic because of what's happening, because of the way that they're living, but also there's this like undercurrent of tension and pain in their relationship, and it seems like things are starting to take a downward turn even already. I'm only 44 pages into this, and it seems like things are starting to go south. So I don't know exactly how that's going to progress, or I'm not sure how that relationship with this new stray is gonna go, but I can sense some like undercurrents of tension building, and I have no idea where it's gonna go. So I'm very, very interested to see how this progresses. But yeah, that is my update for now at chapter 13, and I will let you know when I have something else to say. Okay, so I have just finished The Lamb and I feel incredibly overwhelmed. As I said before, the story to me is more so focused on the relationships, particularly between Margot and Mama, more so than any action or any, gore, horror elements. Now, it is still horrifying and gory and obviously has cannibalism and still has a lot of those like folk horror vibes, but it is more so about the characters' internal feelings and thoughts and relationships. So for Margot, it's about, coming of age, yes, but also figuring out that her mother doesn't love her and that her mother isn't a good person and that her mother would not choose her in the event that she had to choose between her and Eden. She begins to loathe herself for consuming human meat. She starts to understand more of why what her mother does is wrong, and she has character growth in and of herself. We're rooting for her the whole time. I feel so much empathy for her. She is a compassionate character. She is a quiet and thoughtful character, and I was rooting for her throughout the entire book, even though, yes, she does eat people with her mother, but it also, to me, is about indoctrination and what Margot grew up knowing and grew up doing, and she didn't necessarily think twice about it until she got older. And there's a couple of moments of realization throughout the book when Margot and Mama eat strays that are more known to them, that's all I'll say. But you can't really blame her because she is just a child and has been indoctrinated into this way of existing and doesn't know any better. She idolizes her mother. She does whatever her mother wants her to do. She's desperate for her mother's love. She will do anything to get it. And that is a very scary place to be in. So to me, yes, this book is a cannibal horror novel, but it's also a book about the horrors of a toxic mother-daughter relationship. The horrors of wanting so desperately to be loved by your parent and not receiving that love. So there's this passage toward the end of the novel when Mama says, "I wish you knew how hard it is to be a mama. It's the hardest thing in the whole world. It's a promise you make to be perfect and make no mistakes, and to put yourself second until you die. It mutates into this horrible burden, a weight you have to carry forever." And that just gives you a little bit of an insight into Mama's frame of mind. She feels like Margot has been a burden, that she wasn't able to be who she wanted to be because of Margot. And it's a difficult situation because I personally don't have empathy for Mama because of the way she treats Margot, but within that sentence, there is this vulnerability to her where she's admittedly saying this to her child is terrible, awful, but she has this core of even though what she wants is awful, she's not able to have what she wants, or she doesn't feel capable because she has this child. So that just gives you an idea of the frame of mind that Mama is in. There are many passages where Mama says awful things to Margot and reminds her that she doesn't love her and that she's a burden. And this type of mental and emotional abuse is so difficult to read, more difficult to read than any of the gore that happens in this book. I guess I haven't seen as many people talking about this in a psychological horror sense, but I am reading it more so in that way, where really the trauma and the horror of it all is in the way that Margot and Mama's relationship progresses and how it ends. I won't spoil it for you, but it is a culmination of the toxicity of their relationship and the abuse that Margot has had to suffer through. Obviously, this is a pretty extreme example, but it does speak to the type of trauma and abuse that many children suffer. Feeling unloved by a parent, feeling like they have to do everything to gain a parent's approval, and wanting so desperately to be loved. It is heartbreaking, and it made me so upset to read this book. Truly such an impactful book though, and something that I think will stay with me for a long time. So I am giving it 5 stars. I think that the writing was also beautifully done. The book is from Margot's perspective, so it has a childlike quality to it, but not in a way that feels overpowering like some other books that I've read from children's perspectives. Sometimes it can feel a little bit hard to digest or feel a little bit scattered, but I felt like Margot's voice was childlike, but not in such a way that impeded telling the story, if that makes sense. But yeah, I truly loved this book, and I feel like I need to regroup because I feel emotionally spent from reading this, and it was just a lot. So I am going to put this down, and I'm going for a massage today, so that should kind of help reduce some stress. And I'm also having kind of a flare-up right now, so trying to just relax body and mind and get into a better headspace. So that is my plan for the day, but I just wanted to pop on and give my final review of The Lamb, and highly recommend this to you because yeah, I mean, it's gory and it's a lot, and I would definitely proceed with caution because it might not be for everybody, but wow, I just am in love with this book. But yeah, that is my review of The Lamb, and I will see you around. Hello. So I'm ready to start another book. I have Screaming on the Inside by Jessica Gross next. I have the physical copy to show you, but I am gonna start listening to the audiobook for this one. But I figured I would just pop on and let you know that I am starting this, and I will check in when I have something else to say. Okay, so I just wanted to pop on to talk to you a little bit about Screaming on the Inside by Jessica Gross. I have just finished this book, and honestly, I guess I didn't really pop on to talk to you at any point in reading it because it's a pretty short audiobook, and also I really didn't have a lot of thoughts while reading it. So it is essentially a nonfiction book about motherhood in the United States. So it starts off sort of talking about the ways that motherhood is perceived and the expectations of motherhood throughout history. So it talks a little bit about like the Victorian era and then all the way up until modern day. And then the sections sort of start with pregnancy, and then after pregnancy they talk about work and experience with career and motherhood concurrently, and then also they talk about social media. Each part sort of feels related but also separate from each other, especially the transition between the history and then the modern day. So the first section, the history section, was all just very much history without a lot of anecdotal things mixed in, and then the second larger section was all just her, the writer's experience, and then other people that she had interviewed, their anecdotal experiences. There are some like statistics and things thrown in there as well, but a lot of it is personal and how she's perceiving motherhood in America and the people that she's talking to about motherhood. It is kind of intersectional in the sense that Jessica Gross does talk about race, talks about queer identity, talks about all these different aspects of motherhood and parenthood. So I liked that about it. I just don't think that it was particularly either riveting or particularly new information. I do feel like these themes and topics were not talked about enough in the past, but we sort of are starting to see you know, more nuanced takes on motherhood and talking more about the difficulties of motherhood in the modern era, particularly with social media. And so I feel like I didn't necessarily learn anything from this book. Now, maybe if you're not engaging with those subjects regularly, then you might feel like this has some more, you know, different and nuanced takes on the ideas. But I just didn't feel like it said anything, you know, new or anything that hadn't been said before. So personally, I just didn't feel like it was amazing. I gave it 3 stars. I thought that it was still interesting enough. And, you know, the writing was pretty okay, pretty standard. I didn't dislike anything about it. I just didn't feel like it added much to my understanding of the subject matter. So to me, that warrants a 3 star. I feel like it's very much a middle of the road book. You know, I read it. I thought it was interesting, but it didn't really do anything spectacular for me. So that is pretty much my opinion on it. I don't have much else to say about it. I am going to transition into reading The German Room, which is the last book for this episode of the TBR Takedown. I have not started it yet, but I just wanted to pop on and let you know that I'm starting this and give you my thoughts on Screaming on the Inside. So overall, not a bad book, but not something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much to talk about. So yeah, I will check in with you again soon. Okay, so the lighting is not the best right now because it has been thunderstorming all day, but I feel the need to come on and tell you what has happened with The German Room. So here's the thing. I started the TBR Takedown with the goal of reading everything that's on my physical TBR and with the goal of it not stressing me out to the point where I don't want to read anymore. Because a lot of times when I try to do these long TBRs, as I've talked about before, it does not work for me. I feel hemmed in, I feel trapped. I don't want to read the books that I have chosen. And to be honest, there may be a lack of continuity happening in this video because I'm filming this quite a while after I read the other 2 books. And that is because I have put off reading this so much. I chose this and felt like, well, it'll probably be okay because it's a Charco Press book. And to be honest, it probably is a great book. But for me, this is not the type of book that I am interested in reading right now. And I know that that is the point of this whole thing. But I am instating a new rule because of this book where if I really am not enjoying myself while reading this, I can DNF, and that will have to be okay. I think I should allow myself a pass to DNF a book from time to time. So that being said, I think that this is going to be my DNF pick for right now. I did start reading it and I could not for the life of me get into it. I feel like I was reading the same paragraphs over and over and over. And it's just, like I said, I don't think it's a bad book. I just think that the political persecution in the 1970s and this whole like time frame and storyline, it's just not something that I'm excited about. I'm not a historical fiction person. I don't know why I chose this book. I think I just, to be honest, like when I bought it, I was probably looking at all of the Charco Press books that I really enjoyed up to that point and just thinking, oh, I'll give that one a try. But because of the time frame and the general subject matter, it is not something that I am excited about in my life right now, and I have not been excited about it in a long time. And yeah, it was causing me to fall into a slump. I kept thinking I have to read this before I can read something else I want to read, and it's just causing me to not actually want to read at all. So that being said, I am making the difficult choice to DNF this. I am going to keep it around for now just because I think it's a soft DNF. I think that if there is a point where I am interested in this again, I don't know that I'm ready to get rid of it right now, but I do think that I am going to remove it from the graphic and from the list of all the books that I have left to read because I most likely will unhaul this at some point. Though I can't say for sure whether I'll come back around and be interested in it, but I did not want to disappoint you guys in this video and you know, give up, so to speak, on reading this, but I think ultimately my ability to continue reading and enjoy reading is more important than sticking to the original plan. So that being said, I am going to end the video here. I was thinking about pulling a new book and trying again, but honestly, I already have next month's books picked and ready to go, and I've been putting those off to try to finish this, and I'm actually excited about those. So I'm just gonna start working on that, and hopefully next month goes better for the TBR Takedown. So hopefully that wasn't too big of a disappointment for you, but I'm just trying to do my best to stay true to my interests and keep away from the reading slump, the dreaded reading slump. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind hitting like and subscribe, I really, really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.